Hello, I am Nimisha, and this beautiful story is called Alison in Borneo, presented by Dr. Dreams and written by Shumanto Ray. I am going to be your chaperone on an expedition through the wilderness, on a path seldom tread. Cozy up in your bed. Lay back and get comfortable. Forget the anxieties of the day and put your problems to rest. Close your eyes and allow my words to soothe your senses as I paint a picture you would never have envisioned otherwise. Today I am going to lead you into the oldest jungle in the realm familiar to civilization. 130 million years old, the Borneo Rainforest. The most serene island where you will discover inner peace and tranquility. Infinite stretches of foliage which will soothe your mind and detach you from worldly disquiets. Witness this exquisite flora and fauna through the eyes of Alison. Alison is a 21-year-old girl who loves to explore the wonders this world has to offer. She believes that she accomplishes a certain sense of serenity when she is in close proximity to Mother Nature. This is the enthralling record of her time in the Borneo Rainforest. A fresh graduate from the College of Environmental Studies, Alison's parents asked her what she wanted as a gift on graduation day. She had her wish list all prepared. A backpack, camping gear, tickets to some of her favorite wildlife sanctuaries and forest reserves, and a year off to do her exploring. An enthusiastic athlete, Alison was the pole jump champion of her university. She was incredibly fit, and her childhood obsession was Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. Mowgli fascinated her. Fairly tall, at 5 feet 7 inches, with an aquiline nose and piercing blue eyes. Her favorite attire, unlike most girls her age, consisted of multi-pocketed cargo pants, a jacket at her waist, camping boots, and a baseball cap with her university insignia. Wavy golden hair framed her face, along with her 100-watt smile. Her smile lit up every room she walked into and made it impossible for her parents to refuse her anything. Armed with all the items on her wish list, she set off on her adventure. Landing with a thud, she ditched the jeep that was ferrying her and decided to trek the rest of the way through the Borneo forest. She took in her surroundings, from the tall shrubs to the magnificent trees, varying shades of green, from lime to jade, olive and emerald, with a smattering of red and yellow. She was awed, almost overwhelmed really, at the enormity and the sheer scale of what was before her. Armed with her smile, she marched on, following the trail leading into the forest. Although it was daytime, it was almost as if the sun was hiding behind the clouds and peeking at Alison through the dense foliage of the rainforest. The forest was encircled by wild shrubbery with flowers in all the colors of the rainbow. Dewdrops on the flowers reflected the sunlight, conjuring up a scene so radiant it was right out of a storybook. As if in a trance, she went forth and picked one of the millions of flowers growing along the path. A whole host of butterflies in a plethora of colors rose up and seemed to lead the way. As she progressed, she saw verdant trees overhung with blushing red pears. In her excitement that morning, Alison had forgotten all about breakfast. Hunger pangs hit her all at once, and she reached out and plucked a pear. She bit into the most succulent, crisp, and sweet pear she had ever eaten. That a humble fruit could be so gratifying was a novel experience. Satiated, she plunged forth, eager to see what the forest had in store for her. She plucked a few more pears for the rest of the day and was in the process of popping them into her backpack when she saw a pair of deer peering gingerly out at her. They were fawn, almost golden really, with little white speckles. She held the pears out for them, which they accepted and then quickly sprinted away. Unaware of the passage of time, she marched on. Minutes turned into hours without her even realizing. The gurgling, bubbling sound of water caught her attention. A natural spring was sprouting from the earth. She could see a pool of spring water collecting at the bottom, and she casually advanced towards it. Alison cupped her hands and drank some of the cool spring water. Once at the edge, she looked down and saw a myriad of bright colors. But upon closer inspection, realized they were different types of fish in different colors. Many types of algae rested on the underwater rocks, and barnacles could be seen almost everywhere you looked. A few crabs scuttled about, looking for food, trouble, or perhaps just wandering about aimlessly. She was rather taken aback by how parched she was. She kept gulping mouthfuls as she took in the view around her. The spring had attracted a ballet of birds who were all quenching their thirst. There were Bulwer's pheasants, Bornean bristleheads, mountain serpent eagles, dulet partridges, red-breasted partridges, and crimson-headed partridges. A whole chorus of birds crooned a harmony, as if to entertain their beautiful guest. She could have spent the rest of her day listening. So beautiful was their melody. Sated with the luscious red pear and the sweet spring water, she began to feel a little weary from all the walking she had done. She told herself she would do the 40 winks and be up in no time. She curled up in the shade of a tree, backpack for a pillow, and dozed off. When she stirred from her nap, she found herself encircled by many diverse species of animals. They were all sitting there in a circle, waiting in anticipation for her to wake up. There were rare pygmy elephants with ears like a pair of hand fans, which doubled up as wings, enabling flight. One of them had some bananas in its trunk and was holding them out for her. Up on a branch were a couple of orangutans waiting to bestow on her a bouquet of massive, vivid red Rafflesia blooms, which resembled a casserole with speckled petals filled with the sweet nectar of nature. An enchanted potion to remain youthful and attractive. An adorable little baby and mother gibbon was swinging from the vines. The baby gibbon started to swing towards her. There was a crocodile and an otter from the neighboring Kinabatangan River, which surged through the jungle, sounding like a 100-string harp being played by a mythical pixie sitting atop a lime rock formation. The river looked like it would never end, stretching out as far as her eyes could see. Alison was astounded by the sight. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced. At first, she was petrified. But as soon as the animals started conversing with her, she felt at ease. Then spoke the trees, and then flowers. Orchids, hibiscus, bougainvillea, begonia. The variety was endless, and their beauty extraordinary. It was almost as if her smile had drawn all of Mother Nature's favorite progeny to her. Alison woke up and sat down on a nearby boulder. Mold and mildew growing on it. Reality or reverie? She couldn't decide which. She looked down and gazed upon a colony of ants, pausing every few seconds to bring vital supplies back to their home. She felt humbled and awed by all the wonders of Mother Nature. She felt fortunate to be in one of the only places on planet Earth where so many birds and animals coexisted. She slowly jumped off the rock. Walking under the gigantic yellow Miranti trees, which resembled a huge parasol that belonged to God. She saw the Bellion, Tongatali, Strangling Fig, Mengaris, Gaharu, and many other types of trees, whose names she was straining her memory to recall. She began to wish she had paid better attention in botany class. Sometimes she would stop and feel a tree with her hand, closing her eyes as if sensing the soul and spirit inside. Sometime later, she arrived at a sparkling waterfall with the sound of rushing water dancing in her ears. Like a clock whose ticking is never noticed day in or day out, Alison never thought of a waterfall the way she did today. Upon closing her eyes, all she could hear was the splashing of water on the rocks. She kept her eyes tightly closed. With the heat beating down on a particularly warm summer's night, there was something about the call of the water that took on a new quality each time she turned to it. It was as if the water had found a new way to reach her each time. Most of the animals had settled down for the night. The sky was beginning to turn shades of purple. She would walk around the part of the forest that had become familiar to her, and the waterfall would follow her. It was as if the waterfall had been steadily growing louder and louder. But in reality, she knew that the sounds had been the same, that it was her resolve being eroded away like sand on a shoreline. The baby gibbon slept comfortably beside her. She wondered what the gibbon was dreaming about, if gibbons really do dream at all. Getting up again, she went over to the waterfront. She saw the moon, low and pale, shining through slits left by the great waxy leaves of the banana trees. Alison took a deep breath of night air. All those scents of the trees, of the soil, of the threat of rain. She tried to enjoy that breath, but the waterfall was calling to her so urgently that she couldn't rest and enjoy the moment. She exhaled and headed out across the foliage, parting the huge green leaves with her hands, so that she was now walking through the vegetation to that seemingly secret place. The moon watched her from above. It followed her and in turn made a path for her to follow. Up ahead, she heard the waterfall chiming out, and now there was an excitement, a hunger in its voice. It knew she was coming to it. It knew that she was only a few feet away. She turned to look over her shoulder. All the animals were fast asleep. She pushed through where the leaves grew thickest, and there she was. The waterfall was beautiful under the moonlight. Where before its call had been urgent and plaintive, now it sang. The sound was golden. The spray glittered as it passed into the faint light and out into the night. When Alison felt the spray on her hands, her face, and her body, it was as if a halo was covering her, and nothing bad could ever happen again. Alison walked on the slippery rocks that surrounded the waterfall. She found the path that snuck in behind the wall of water. And even though she tried to be careful, she couldn't avoid the stray jets splashing out, soaking her. She came to the mouth of the cave and slipped inside. It was pitch black, warm as a sauna. She began to feel warm and fuzzy. Her eyelids felt heavy. She lay down, and in no time, sleep was upon her. Her slumber was, without a doubt, one of the best she had had for as long as she could remember. Even in her sleep, her smile was intact. The sun dawned above the rolling hills, its brilliant demeanor illuminating the trees and landscape for many miles. The moon still hovered in the sky, refusing to give up its airy domain. The clouds moved like sheep grazing in the blue sky, the wind pushing them along as if to help. Many creatures beneath woke up and began to start just another day. Yet many others slept, Alison included, for it was not yet their time in the sun.